What up, dudes? In this episode of the Vintage Downhill podcast, we talk with Mike Ferrentino. Mike is most known for being the editor-in-chief of Bike Magazine. He also ran marketing for Santa Cruz Bicycles. He's one of the founders of the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, which runs and manages trails in Northern California. He writes articles on his Substack and for nsmb.com. I hope you enjoy this podcast with Mike Ferrentino. We both started working at Performance Bike Shop on the same day in 1994, and if you remember Performance, they were like the McDonald's
I
bike
do.
shops. But that's where I came up, and he's now working in aerospace. I don't know if you know the company Joby.
I do.
They're building
I know
carbon
Jody.
fiber. They're building carbon air taxis, and he's like their head carbon dude. But
Oh,
he
wow. What a
started
trip.
off as a bike mechanic, and do you remember Alpha Q forks?
Yep.
Okay, so that dude was a Korean dude named Kyuwang Lee. They were based up here in San Leandro,
Okay. Yeah.
and he was an engineer making carbon fiber shit. And he met my friend Judd, who was a bike mechanic, and he's like, "You're really good with your hands. Can I teach you how to do carbon?" And now he's in aerospace. So
What a trip. Because I always thought Alpha Q was like a subdivision of Reynolds. I
mm.
might have just been,
They got
my
bought
brain
by
was,
True Temper,
okay.
and then they competed with Reynolds. So yeah,
Could be. Yeah. That was right as I was beginning to sort of veer out of cyclocross, was when those forks were sort of in their prime, like late 90s,
yeah.
early 2000s. Yeah.
But anyway, I guess my point being is you can go from being a bike mechanic to all kinds of stuff. Like if you're good, fixing and building shit, you're good fixing and building shit.
Shit, how come I never got that memo? I went from being a bike mechanic to writing about being a bike mechanic to
I
back to being a
mean,
bike mechanic.
I mean the Wright brothers, I
Yeah,
mean,
they figured some stuff out.
they were bike mechanics.
Yes, they were.
So, how are you? Where are you?
I'm in Colorado, Buena Vista, Colorado. The
Okay.
locals call it Buena Vista because apparently the original settlers of the town in the late 1800s were Germans. They named it with the German or the Spanish name because they liked the look of the name, but then mispronounced it. And so if you're not from here, you call it Buena Vista, and people go, "Oh, you mean Buena Vista," which,
Oh, they'll actually
you
correct
know,
you.
yeah, my mom lives in Mexico, and I speak order food Spanish, but I try not to mispronounce it. So for me, it's like, no, I'm going to call it Buena Vista. Most of the people try to avoid the whole argument and just call it BV,
Yeah.
but then that could be misconstrued to mean something like bacterial vaginosis, and that's not cool. So
Uh,
yeah,
I think there's a winery in Napa called BV, so you could go there.
Bellio Vineyards, yes.
Yeah. So
I,
it
I
could go
know
either way.
them.
Did
Yeah,
you just move down there?
2 years ago. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's the banana belt of Colorado, they call it. I I came through here, I don't know, 1994, the first time on my way to go to Leadville. I was going to go race the Leadville 100, and my buddy and I dropped into this town. I was like, this place is kind of cool. Looks like it's been kicked in the teeth, but it's cool. And you got the collegiates running down one side of the valley, all these 14,000-foot peaks. You've got the Arkansas River running right through town. And then you've got a whole sort of desert landscape out to the east. It's beautiful here, 8,000 feet above sea level.
Oh, wow.
But, at the time I was fully invested in living in California, so I didn't move out here. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't make the move 20 or 30 years ago when I still had legs and lungs, and I don't know,
Yeah.
and real estate was cheap.
Did you do Leadville?
Yeah, yeah. Did the
And
first five of them.
and you actually finished Leadville?
Oh yeah. No, I got I
Um,
got I got two of the regular size belt buckles for finishing under 11 and two of the big ones for finishing under 9.
dude.
And then we were on track for the fifth one, and my back was killing me, and my buddy was having all kinds of trouble with his bike, and we were both like, well, we're going to get another belt buckle, but we're not going to go faster than we did the previous years. And
Hmm.
this whole place is kind of just rough. It's like a big fire road grind.
Yeah.
It's not, it's hard because it's long and it's at
Yeah.
altitude, but we dropped out just about 50 miles into the race. went,
Yeah.
handed their numbers in, and then rode the Colorado Trail all the way back to Leadville, which you
Nice.
don't do during the race.
Uh-huh.
The Colorado Trail up there is awesome. So he still rode like 80 or so miles, and that I think pretty much put paid to my aspirations for 100-mile racing. I was
Yeah,
done
so what
after
is
that.
Leadville? It's like 100 miles, but how many feet of elevation or climbing do you do?
10 or 11,000 ish.
And you're above 10,000 feet the whole day?
No, like you start in town. So Leadville's main street's what, 11,000 feet above sea level. And you probably drop down to when you're out by Twin Lakes. That's under 10. You'd be somewhere in the between 9 and 10 zone there. And
Yeah.
then it climbs, the highest it climbs up to is 12,004 or 12,600.
Wow.
So it's up there.
That's brutal.
It's not a fun day at the office. It's funny. They had that whole, uh, it's part of the Lifetime Grand Prix now.
Okay.
So it's part of a series of races that Lifetime puts on. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle last year because Keegan Swinsett won it again on drop bars, and a bunch of people were riding drop bars, which to me makes perfect sense at that place. It is just a big fire road grind. It is not really, I don't think you can ideologically differentiate it from a gravel race.
Yeah.
But they put a lot of stock in calling it a mountain bike race. So they
Yeah.
decided to ban drop bars. And they said it was a safety measure.
Yeah.
But really, I think it's more like trying to say, no, no, this is still a mountain bike race.
Yeah.
But I kind of call bullshit on that.
Yeah. That's kind of funny. I had no
Yeah,
idea. This is kind of a funny thing to say. I had no idea you were such a badass. I mean,
I'm not. No,
completing
I was
completing five of those is pretty hardcore.
four. I dropped
Four.
out of one
Oh,
of them.
sorry. Yeah.
I don't know. 30 years ago, things were a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were probably more of a badass 30 years ago, or you lacked a certain amount of common sense 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, the one time you and I rode together, which I mean, we didn't really, it was a big group, but we did one of the, I think they were called Epics in Downeyville.
Oh, yeah. I was riding sweep for that, wasn't I?
I can't
I
remember.
think.
I remember you were on the ride, and we did like 40 or something miles
Yeah.
from like downtown Downeyville to Forest City.
Oh, so it was the Forest City one. Yes, I was riding sweep for that. Yeah, they had done a couple of those epics. There'd been the one that sort of went from town and then climbed up from Union Flat all the way up to Packer Saddle and did then kind of a big, over Big Boulder and down third and second
Hmm.
ride. That was the first one. The next year, the one you were at, that was Forest City. That was a sweet one. I don't know if they really repeated that either.
Yeah, it
That
was
was some,
rad. I think it was about 40 miles and
yeah,
super rustic. I mean, hardly
yeah.
anybody rides those trails. And then
No,
Forest City is basically a ghost town. There's like one guy that lives there, maybe, you know?
I thought the population was about 9, but yeah, you're close.
Yeah.
Um,
They claim nine.
yeah, yeah, that town has an interesting history. Greg Williams, who was the guy at Syracuse Trail Stewardship, put on the Downeyville Classic.
Yeah.
He had lived up there for a while with this guy Zachy, who built a lot of those trails in that area,
Yeah.
and they talked about they both were convinced that the building they were in was haunted. And most other people you talk to who spend time up there go, "Oh yeah, half of those buildings are haunted." I don't know.
Really.
I've never spent time up there, but yeah, it's backwoods.
Yeah, that's good shit. That was the kind of thing I was into back in the day. I mean, we used to go because I'm down here in the Bay Area, but we
Right.
would do 6 to 8 Downeyville trips every summer, you know? So not every weekend, but a lot of them, you know. So Greg Williams definitely knew who I was. But after a while, like the Downeyville downhill can, become a little kind of formulaic. And then
It's a strange one that way, huh?
you start branching out. You do Mount Elwell or
Yeah,
Lavazola Creek Trail or whatever. So yeah, the Forest City ride was rad.
yeah. I moved up there for a while, and like I had moved to Nevada City from Santa Cruz, and I was
Right.
living in a barn behind my brother's house, and that's when I met Greg, and at that time, he was still dealing with the remnants of Coyote Adventure Company, which is what he'd been labeled as when they started the Downhill Classic, and started going up there to ride. And then, because I was a freelance writer, I could live pretty much anywhere I could get a modem, right, or
Yeah.
get some sort of satellite signal. So I decided to move to Downeyville, which was a very interesting experiment in some ways.
Yeah.
And but it was great. Like there were like 3 summers where I was working at the shop, riding my ass off,
Yeah.
and I hardly rode the downhill at all.
Yeah.
Like we would do it, but there's so much other riding up there. Like once you get into the lakes basin,
Yeah.
like, why even bother with the downhill? All this stuff up here is just so much more epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year did you move up there?
Oh, geez. I moved to Nevada City in 99 or 2000, 99, I think. And then would have been at Downeyville from, I was there 2001, 2003, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then Portola, Truckee, and then back to Santa Cruz.
Nice. Yeah, I think I want to say 1996 is when he started Coyote Adventure Company and then was closed in 97. And that's when the other Greg Long,
Yeah,
showed up and started Downeyville Outfitters. And then Greg Williams came back in 98, I think. I think he,
that sounds about right. I
yeah,
think 96 was probably the first year of the Classic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Downeyville's rad. The riding up there is rad. I don't think I know the trails as well as you do. I didn't live up there, but Mount Elwell and all
Yeah.
that, all the stuff out of Gray Eagle.
Yeah.
So beautiful country. I'd love to
It's
live
such
up
good.
there.
I still rate that as some of my favorite mountain biking anywhere on the planet. Like it's
Yeah,
just good.
yeah. Um, so something that happened in Downeyville, it kind of started out with the Downeyville downhill being like the main draw. And then they had the race,
Yeah.
that combined both the downhill and the cross country. And then they branched out and started building trails all over Mount Huff and et cetera. And that was kind of done under the auspices of the trail stewardship. Did you have
Mhm.
something to do with the creation of the trail stewardship?
Yeah. Oh, I did. There's not much I have done in life or can lay claim to, but I was one of the founders of the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, and
Yeah. How did that come about?
we needed a chainsaw. Um, so
You needed one legally?
this had to have been 2002-ish, 2003.
Yeah.
Brutal winter, like just a ton of blowdowns, and blowdowns up there they can be like 3 foot diameter trees. These
Yeah.
big firs and cedars, when they come down, it's not something you can just roll off the trail. So we had talked to the Forest Service, and the guy who was the rec manager at that time was this guy named Joe Chavez, and we sort of referred to him as the obstruction. When it
Yeah.
came to getting any sort of positive work done, he would be there to just get in the way and not get things done. So we're like, hey, Joe, summer's coming. We're pretty sure that by Memorial Weekend we'll be ready to open up. I think we can get Caltrans said they'll plow up to Packer Saddle. So if there is any snow, it'll be clear. But we need to get up and start clearing trails. Is there any way that the Forest Service can do that? He's like, we don't have a sawyer on staff anymore. We eliminated that position. It's like, okay, can we go take care of those trails? He's like, well, if I don't know about it, sure.
Hmm.
Technically, no, you can't. But so we were looking around, and on Second Divide, there was just this honker that was down. If I can, I'll try to send you the picture of after we had cut that beast out of the trail. It was
Uh-huh.
big. It had to be like 4 foot in diameter, right across that super sketchy section of the Second Divide Trail where it's basically just 30-foot cliff down to the river.
Uh-huh.
And so we're asking our friends, anyone got a chainsaw? And no one had anything. So it's like, okay, the still shop in Nevada City has a Magnum 440 that'll pull that thing. I'm pretty sure we can put a 30-inch bar on it. We can get it with a 30-inch bar. So we go down there, And I just remember there was one moment where we're looking at saws, and neither of us really know what the hell we're doing. This is Greg Williams and I. And
Mm.
Greg's picking up chainsaws and kind of just doing like these kung fu moves with them. Yeah. Oh, this one feels good.
That's how you
I
test
don't
out a
know.
chainsaw.
I don't know what they thought of us at the saw shop, but we bought this saw. It was about $700,
Damn.
and that led us to this guy Carl Butts, who lives in Downeyville, still there, runs the Mountain Messenger now, the newspaper.
Okay.
He had done some work with nonprofits, and he is sort of whispering in Williams' ear, like, "Hey, you could just file a 501c3, become a nonprofit organization." And Greg had already been thinking about how do you balance all these people coming up to ride bikes with the impact of them and keeping trails open. We saw that, like, right now we're lucky, but that may change. And if we are proactive about this, we get ahead of the curve and start working on trails and start stewardship, then we can be ahead of any sort of negative repercussions. And already mountain bikers in Downeyville were sort of thought of as a pain in the ass, even though they were rapidly becoming the sole economic driver of the area.
Yeah.
So we started a nonprofit. Greg and I split up writing the first couple grants and just went after rec grants wherever we could. And that from there turned into what it is now, where I was really only there for the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the trail work days and the tying that in and beginning to run the race and the shop under the auspices of the stewardship and building out the contracts they took in to take on work all over the Northern Sierra now. Well, that was all pretty much Greg's vision and a lot of other very hardworking people. But
I mean,
yeah, it's done well.
hell of a vision and inspiring. And I mean, inspiring in the little literal sense. I'll get to that in a little bit. But I mean, my understanding is they kind of identified that the Downeyville downhill was just impacted. You're getting tens of thousands of cyclists on a single trail, you know, and
54,000 a summer.
yeah, we need to, how many?
I think around then we'd had like Mike Hare, the ranger before Joe Chavez, had gone up and done a counter one year.
Metal Mike was
And
a
I think,
Metal Mike?
oh, sorry, Bill Hare, Metal
Oh,
Mike's
okay.
dad.
Oh, okay.
just for the full compaction of
Keep it all in the family.
personalities. Sorry, Metal Mike, didn't mean to confuse you with your father. He had, and I think that had been something that Greg had actually worked on, was they had counters on Butcher,
Okay.
Butcher or Third Divide, just tracking the number of people that went, like tick, tick, tick. And I think they managed to get up to an estimate of about 54,000 people coming down that trail in the course of
Yeah.
a summer in around about 99 or 2000.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if it had even peaked, but
No,
I think
not by a long time.
part of the vision, as I understood it, was kind of like load balancing, right? Distribute that load over more, trails. And then he or you or the team, the quorum, came up with the idea that if it has positive economic impact on Downeyville, what kind of positive economic impact can we share if we start connecting trails to these distributed communities? And he
That
started
was
like,
all. Yeah, that was all Greg Williams' vision there.
dude's a little bit of a genius, a very soft-spoken, bearded
No,
genius.
he figured that out. So, like, when we started it, like, if you go back even further, there's a younger Greg Williams who was a little bit uh, opportunistic and maybe lawless in some ways. So he's putting
Okay.
on his race, and he's getting his permits, and he's just getting it by the skin of his teeth. But like, one of the first times I went riding with him in Downeyville, he has a bunch of race flyers in the van. He's like, "Hey," as we're getting ready to leave town, he's like, "Can you just take these and just run them into the pizza joint there?"
Hmm.
And just, you'll see there's a rack and there's a bunch of other flyers and stuff. Just take the little race flyers and put them there, like postcards. Like, why don't you do that? He's like, "Oh, I'm driving." I'm like, "Yeah, but we're in a parking lot." He's like, "Oh, I still owe Shifty Bill $500 from sponsoring the race last year, and I
Oh.
haven't talked to him. And dude, just go talk to him." And so I was kind of like it's not the angel or the devil on the shoulder. I was sort of the one like, "No, dude, come on, you got to do this." But that was right as many things were shifting for him, and he really went from a guy running a business, putting on a race, to having this understanding of community worth
Yeah.
of both like what the recreational value of mountain biking is, plus what the recreational value of having access is,
Yeah.
and how all of this needs to be balanced, and how there's a way that these communities that are just flatlining can get like a little lifeline of survival going. It can bring more people in. And if you bring the people in, and if the people are cool, if the people have a stake in it, which is a lot of what the stewardship then did, was they would have those work days and we'd be getting 30, 50, 80, 100 people showing up to work on trail
Hmm.
and hang out and party for a weekend. And those people keep coming back. There's guys like Toe Clip Todd who've been doing that since the late 90s, basically. And
Todd
every
the
time
Todd
there's a
the
work
Todd the
day,
plumber?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Toe Clip Todd, you know him.
I didn't know him as Toe Clip Todd, but yeah, I know
Well,
Todd.
I think he probably just rides flat pedals now, but he always had toe clips
Yeah, okay.
when we first met him. So that was just the thing. That was his nickname. Yeah, him and Dan and that crew. I'm sure you know them because they
Sarge.
are also East Bay. Sarge,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So those guys were some of the first guys going up for the stewardship stuff, and they are still doing it. Like we're 23 or so years later,
Yeah.
they're sticking to it, and they've been a huge part of that. But Williams is the one who really saw the idea of how do you then take this, you build trail models within given communities, and then connect those communities together.
It's really good, dude. And there's got to be so much untapped opportunity, probably all around the country. But I'm thinking of little, pockets around Northern California, little towns that are just dying or becoming like meth havens that are surrounded by
Yeah,
beautiful, countryside. That if they were to draw in, people like me and you that are willing to spend $200 a night on a hotel and eat and drink and mountain
yeah.
bike would be way better than meth heads, right?
It's a
Um,
it's a strong model, and like it's not like what Greg did in Downeyville was the first, because Troy Rarick and Over the Edge were doing it in Fruita, Colorado
right, yeah,
about the same time. And Troy turned that into a business model where he created this whole over the edge idea and really wanted to sort of just Johnny Appleseed it into different communities everywhere around the world.
yeah.
But that all, like my first understanding of that was I was on a trip for Bike Magazine in England in 1996. I think, yeah, 96, maybe 97. And we went to Wales,
Hmm.
and they were building a bike park in Wales. And
Hmm.
Wales is the Appalachia or the Eastern Northern Sierra of the United Kingdom. It's
Okay.
I hope listeners over there don't take offense of that, but to my understanding, it is economically more disadvantaged than other parts of the country,
Yeah.
and also bequeathed with a lot of landscape and a lot of forestry, which is also something that's relatively rare in the UK.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, we've got a forest. We know the trees will get cut down at some point, but they'll let us build trails in here.
Yeah.
And it became a massive economic driver for this community.
Do you know who was spearheading that in Wales?
Daffod Davis, I think.
Who, Davis?
I want to say Daffod or David.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
I didn't know if the Athertons were involved in that. For some reason, I thought the Athertons were involved.
they
But
probably were at some point. Daffod Davies, yeah. Um, Pretty sure that's correct. Again, this was a long time ago, so if I'm
no,
wrong,
that's
I
cool. I'm
apologize.
just I'm
But
I'm just curious what people are doing where.
yeah, I would think that they had something in that. But yeah, and like,
Getting back to Greg Williams, I mean, he's done great work, and I didn't realize that you were involved in the creation of the stewardships. Obviously, you have done great work. But hey, so
most people
down
only go.
down here in the 925 where I live in Walnut Creek, we have Briones Regional Park, which
Mm-hmm.
was mountain bikers have been banned on any trail narrower than like 10 feet in East Bay Regional Park District. Just by
Yep.
default, mountain biking has been banned since the creation of time. And in fact, that's partially how the IMBA was founded.
Yep.
Was fighting the fight against the Regional Parks District. But in 2023, they decided to allow us to actually have some of the illegal trails that the trail gnomes have been building and actually make them legal.
No kidding.
And I raised my hand at this meeting and said, "Well, who's going to manage and maintain these trails?" And everybody looked around because I'm sitting around with like bureaucrats and like soccer moms, and there's nobody there that like knows the trails, and because the trails were built illegally. So
Right.
I founded the Stewards of Briones, modeled after the Sierra Butte's trail stewardship,
Oh, awesome.
the
Congratulations.
the SOBs.
And stewards of Briones. But that's, I mean, the fact that there's anything opening up there,
Dude, and it's
I mean,
legit. It's
yeah.
legit. I don't know if you've been up here, but I mean
I,
these are downhill trails with jumps that are like head high. And
wow.
the jumps my fear was the trails would be taken over by people that didn't understand and that they would sanitize the trails. And so I fought like fiendishly to get out in front of that and make sure that they were being managed and maintained by riders for riders. Instead of fewer and smaller jumps, we have more and bigger jumps
Right, right.
right here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think my last time riding anywhere out there would have been, a cross country race in about 1989, the Black
Yeah.
Diamond Coal Climb behind Clayton.
Yep.
Uh, that's really because everything got shut down early 90s. That
Yeah.
place just got crushed.
So I knew what,
That's awesome.
what you guys and what Greg had done and so when I was sitting down with the Parks District, I'm like, this is what they're doing. And we would like to adopt Briones and call it we were having burgers and beers with the Parks District. Anyway, so
Well,
you
cool.
guys have literally inspired other people around the country, probably not just me.
Oh, glad to know something worked.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Mountain
Yeah.
biking's good, dude. I mean, they're talking about opening up some trails on Mount Diablo now.
No
And
shit.
yeah, Mount Diablo, which I mean that's legitimately like
Yeah.
state park. That's not an old mine or quarry.
Yeah.
And of course the environmentalists and hikers are all like up in arms, like but it's being sponsored by NICA, so the Interscholastic Cycling Association,
Yeah.
like for kids. I'm like, dude, you want kids outside and exercising?
Which is like where you are in the East Bay, it's difficult because you're dealing with what is basically an affluent community base
Yeah,
with a lot of competing interests. So they
yeah,
have money and they have agency. In the depressed communities, like anywhere up in northeastern California, for example, or pick a state and find the poor place. Depressed rural communities, it's almost easy in terms of getting something happening because it's like there's the possibility that people will come and they'll have money, and this is not going to be a bad thing. And we're not mining, we're not logging, we're not doing some huge extractive thing, we're not building a data farm here.
yep,
We're just cutting a little bit of trail that we'll also take care of that you can hike on. And if you do that thing, like you get to do that, you get to enjoy this. That's one. Bring in money, too. But then, like where you guys are, especially, it's something for the kids to do. And when it's already tied in with a well established, well respected scholastic league, it only the most like Ebenezer Scroogey people can really push back on that, right?
Mike Vandeman enters the chat.
Yeah, he's still around.
Dude, he came to the meetings. It was pretty funny. So anyway,
Of course he did.
so dude, so there's a couple of things I learned about you in preparation for talking today.
Uh-oh.
For people who don't know Mike Ferrentino, maybe give a brief introduction now that we're like a half hour in.
Ah, hello, my name is Mike Ferrentino. I was a bike
Spit out
mechanic
my
who
water.
then lucked into a career writing about bicycles for a magazine called Bike. And I wrote a column for them for 27 years that was called The Grimy Handshake. And then they did what media does and disappeared as a magazine. came back as a thing called beta for a little while that got swallowed up by the outside pink bike black hole. And now I write for some polite Canadians at nsmb.com. I, and I'm a bike mechanic again.
Are you really?
Sort of. I was helping a buddy in town build up his fleet of rental bikes, and there is not really an active bike shop in town right now. There's a sort
Okay.
of bike shop, but there was a bike shop that went out of business. The next couple shops, very good shops, Absolute Bikes, Subculture Cyclery, are down in Salida, and that's 30 miles from here.
Okay.
It's a half-hour drive. Then you can combine a trip to the bike shop with the bride. There's tons of trails, but there isn't really anyone here wrenching on stuff. So I've sort of been kind of on the side wrenching on bikes.
Right on.
It's yeah, it's good. I was talking with another former journalist coworker who was also a mechanic, and he had been like a race team mechanic for Specialized back in the day, and like full on proper do it at the races mechanic, which is different than being a shop mechanic.
Hmm.
Um, we can get into that if you want, but and he was describing working in marketing now about how it's like with wrenching, I knew I was good and I knew exactly what to say to any customer in any situation or any racer in any situation. I knew I had what it took to fix it. I knew how to make that bike better. I knew how to make bikes that won. But with marketing, I just don't know. Like, you never know if you're doing it right. And no one's there to tell you. You can't just like do some marketing and wheel it out the door and take it on a test ride and go, oh, it's working better now.
Hmm.
It's not the same. That sort of was how he was describing missing the tangible aspects of wrenching on bikes, which I'm sort of re-experiencing that because I've
Hmm.
been writing a ton. I've been wrenching on and off throughout that whole time. Like when I was in Downeyville, I was the mechanic at the bike shop.
Hmm.
And when I am not wrenching on things at least 10, 15 hours a week, I feel like I don't know quite what I'm doing. Like I'm a writer. I'm a pretty good one. I've been doing it for a hell of a long time, but it still oftentimes does not feel tangible. At the end of the day, staring at the computer, I don't know if I've really done something.
Is it like a right brain, left brain type thing? I mean, one's
Um,
empirical, hard facts, the other one's ethereal artistry.
I wouldn't go so far as to call writing artistry, but it's a lot of in your brain. You're trying to you're entirely working stuff out in your head or through a keyboard on a screen, and there isn't really a tangible physical aspect to it other than clacking on the keyboard.
Yeah.
And I can compare the difference between using a keyboard and handwriting even.
Yeah.
Whereas wrenching on a bike or digging in a trail or planting a garden or whatever it is that you do with your hands,
Yeah.
it, as much as the woke joke is to say things like "oh, touch grass," there's something to be said for that,
Hmm.
or touch metal, or get your hands dirty.
I don't think of myself as a good writer at all. I'm probably a little too like ADD. Like I write things and like I'll find like pockets of my words are just completely wrong. Like the words in my brain don't end up on the keyboard. But I appreciate really good. I don't know why that is. I make these really weird typos, but I appreciate really good writing, and I liken a really good vocabulary to being like I'm a pretty good cook, right? I liken being having a really good vocabulary, knowing how to use it as being like a really good cook with a really large spice cabinet, right?
You know what spices are for and what to do with them.
Like I could roast a chicken and just put like poultry seasoning and salt and pepper on it, or I could break out like the herbs de Provence and stuff like that and do it maybe a little bit more complex, a little bit more nuanced, and having a large vocabulary and knowing how to use it in the form of writing or communicating to me is art. Um,
Yeah,
People like you, Zapata Espinosa, I've been really impressed. You're really smart. They're really smart dudes. And you could tell a lot by a person by the way they communicate. Sometimes just the clarity of the communication, but sometimes just the breadth of knowledge and the depth of the vocabulary. And so I'm always impressed.
Well, thanks, I guess. I feel like if I was smart, I would have got rich at some point, um, but I didn't, so I can't be that smart.
Yeah. That's the way I explain it to my daughter, though. Like, she's in school, she's young, she's 14, she's in school, she's pretty smart, she's got a really good vocabulary for her age. And the way I describe it is think of yourself as a chef in a kitchen, and your vocabulary is your spice rack, and knowing how to use it is the
Which
art.
is the key, like the knowing how to use it part. Sometimes just a little bit of salt is all you need, right?
Yep, yep.
You don't
True.
have to go find the saffron. Uh,
Yeah, I got the barbecue going right now. I've got some beef on the barbecue, and all that's on it is salt and pepper because that's all it needs.
yeah, right. Yeah,
So,
there's definitely a lot of breathy overuse of the 50-cent words
yeah.
amongst writers, and that comes and goes.
So there's a lot to cover with you and your background that you've probably talked about in the past, but right now I'm really excited to hear about your new bike,
Oh, which one?
the Black Cat.
Oh man, I was just working on that before we got on this.
So Todd and I worked together at Hank and Frank Bike Shop back in like 1997 in Oakland.
Oh man,
What's his last name again?
Todd Ingermanson.
Ingermanson.
Ingermanson, yeah.
Tell me about your new bike.
So it's a gravel bike.
It's
Um,
really pretty.
it's gorgeous. I waited for 2 years for this thing because Todd has a list, and Todd is not to be rushed.
Yeah.
And um, it is far and away the prettiest bike. I've never in my life had a fancy paint job on a bike.
Hmm.
There was, yeah, I take that back. One of my retro techs when I was racing retro techs back in 94-ish, had this nice sort of metallic fade that we called the hummingbird because it went from a kind of a iridescent green to a deep violet, all metallic. It was painted by this guy named Pat Trolin in Santa Cruz. And that's it. Like otherwise, powder coat it black. Just make it. It's a tool. It's going to get beat up,
Yep.
and don't make it pretty. But this thing is called the Molino, which if you go to the Black Cat website, you'll see the Molino as a model, and it's a gravel bike, but it's got this curved top tube, and it's got these seat stays that do this, and there's like just little touches everywhere on it. It's all fillet brazed, frame, fork, and stem. And the stem is this bifurcated Y stem. It's a two-part stem. So
Yeah.
if you're looking at it from the side, one part goes like that, and one part goes like that,
Yeah.
or like that to meet the
Yeah.
handlebar. So it clamps on the stem, or it clamps on the steerer in two pieces, and then two pieces to meet the handlebar. Looks kind of like an old bull moose in a way, but it's going to a drop bar.
Yeah.
And the more I look at it, I'm just like, oh man, Todd must have just tied himself in knots obsessing over some of these little details that are everywhere on this bike. And
Mitering that thing must have been a pain. I
yeah,
don't even,
most people look at the stem and just kind of laugh, especially if they're fabricated like, oh, wow, that guy really likes to make problems for himself.
yeah.
And that's kind of how the whole bike looks. It's gorgeous, but man, it cost a fortune. And at first I was like, oh man, because the bill came due right about the time that I ran out of money, had to go to Mexico, and had a giant hole in my mouth that needed fixing. I was like,
Oh,
oh, this is bad timing. But yes, you've been working on this for 2 years here.
yeah.
Um, but now I look at it and I can imagine the amount of time he spent working on it. And all I can think about is like, I wish I was rich enough to like order another frame for him just so he could like tie himself in knots. And I wish I could watch that, like watch him work through his thought processes, because there's a level of OCD at work with him
Yeah.
that is pretty intense.
Yeah.
And he makes beautiful stuff. Like, have you seen his motorcycle stuff?
No.
So
Is
there's
that
Black
is
Cat
that still under
bicycles,
okay, he has a Black Cat motorcycle?
and there's Black Cat Moto, where if you felt like you wanted a bespoke hand built or rebuilt Norton 750 Commando, take a big old pile of money and send it to
No
Todd.
way. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, he can make some stuff. He is a
Yeah.
craftsman.
What kind of tubing on your frame?
Metal,
Steel.
steel. Well, it's the steel industry is a strange one these days, right?
Yeah,
You know, there is no longer true temper. You're not going to find any Tangay tubing.
right.
So it's a mix. There's some Columbus in there. Um, I think the fork blades he used were actually some holdout true temper stuff he had,
Uh-huh.
but it's otherwise it's a quad butted down tube, but I don't even know what that was from.
Mm-hmm.
The top tube is a bent top tube, so I'm going to guess that that's a straight gauge.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, a mix of Columbus and some other stuff
Yeah, I
is
mean,
what he said.
every type of tube, whether it be aluminum, titanium, or steel, for bicycles is becoming harder and harder to come by, and
Yeah,
everybody's kind of having to piecemeal it together. I had Frank Waddleton on
I
recently,
was
and
just listening to that the other day, and
yeah,
then
go
as
ahead.
you were mentioning that, Frank posted a picture on Instagram of a bike that got sent to him for repair,
Hmm.
and he's like, "This is one of the old ones, and it came from some guy in the Philippines, and it still had the victory stem and the bullseye cranks."
Yeah.
And I was, oh, check that out, Simplex dropouts. I had a Yeti from that vintage because my first, no, my only Yeti was 1989, I think I ordered, or 1990, and yeah, so they had the loop tail rear. They had simplex horizontal dropouts, not campy. Well, maybe
Hmm.
they had campy at some point, but this one had simplex on it. And then in Frank's was talking about this bike, I was always wondering about that ovalized top tube.
Yeah.
And that was a bunch of just used up BMX stock that they got, right?
Really? Was it
Yes. It wasn't from Torker.
Mongoose?
SE?
Probably. Well, SC, yeah, I mean, SC had
Might have
oversized
been
tubes.
SE.
SC was always aluminum, I thought, weren't they?
No, so yeah, it would have been Torker then. Oh, fuck, I don't know. You had Frank on. Get him back. Let's get him to talk about this bike.
I would imagine it was from Mongoose because that's who he made bikes for, but I don't know.
So even back then, though, that was right as Tongay Prestige was becoming the thing. And if you were getting a fancy mountain bike, you wanted like the Team Mount Fuji or whatever, that would have a little Tongay Prestige sticker on the frame. Yetis? Nah. Patco, Pacific Tubing Company,
Oh, really?
4130 straight gauge,
Yeah.
nothing butted, nothing fancy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, did you figure out the rims for your Black Cat?
Finally, yes. I'm going to use Outback, sorry, Astral Outback. So White Industries Hubs, Astral Rims. They're up in
And
Oregon doing their own rims, and they're one of the only outfits that will do a polished rim.
so you got polished.
Yep, went
Yeah.
with that. Like, all the components are going to be polished silver,
Yeah.
which is not as easy as you would think.
So
No one likes.
you're actually polishing everything?
I'm going to I'm going to pull apart a dropper post and polish it. Yep,
No way.
strip it and polish it. And I've got a couple black chain rings that at some point I'll strip and redo. I've
Wow.
got I got a GRX limited edition group set, a Shimano GRX group set. They made some in silver, but they
Okay.
all disappeared immediately. But one of them got sent to James Huang,
To
who's a
who?
journalist. James Huang. He's a
Okay.
journalist up in Boulder, has his own Substack called N-1.
Yep.
Worked for Escape Collective briefly, before that for Velo News for a very long time. Like one of the smartest tech minds in terms of bicycle tech journalism out there.
Hmm.
So he got sent one at some point, and he had installed it and shot some photos, and then just took it back apart because he just doesn't like silver components or didn't have a bike to use it on.
Hmm.
He's like, so James, yeah, I heard you've got a silver GRX group. He's like, yep. What do you need? And I was like, oh, at least the cranks, definitely the controls. He's like, okay, you can have them, but you have to take everything.
Mm.
Man, how much is that? He goes, you can have it for what I paid for it. What'd you pay for it? He goes, it was a test sample. Like, oh, but you have to take it all.
Right.
So I've got that. Um, I've got a Garabuk rear cassette. I pieced together two different enduro headsets, and then had to get a crown race from White Industries to make that all work. So it's basically a three-part headset.
Nice.
Apparently, you can just buy a White Industries headset or a Chris King headset that will do the job, but it's got some interesting spatial issues in terms of top cup, top cap, top cup, bottom cup, and crown race or crown diameter.
Yeah.
Um, because the fork is a tapered inch and an eighth to inch and a quarter fork
Oh,
because it's steel fork, right? So it's
yeah.
a big long steel steer. If you did an inch and an eighth to inch and a half, you would have a fork that weighs as much as a frame.
Right.
So he did this, inch and a quarter fork, but it's got a 44 millimeter bottom headset cup, which
Hmm.
is, an inch and a half cup. And at some point 2 years ago, when Todd and I had been talking, he'd asked, "Do you want to put a suspension fork on this thing?" That's like, maybe. Well, I'll build it so you can. Hence, a tapered head tube that has inch and an eighth up the top, gigantic inch and a half at the bottom, and then a fork that's inch and a quarter. Took a little bit of, it took three headsets to make it
Wow.
work.
Nice. I
Yeah.
told you I was getting a custom frame built, but it's a custom downhill frame.
Yes. How's that
Um,
going?
it shipped today from Britain.
Oh,
And so it'll be here next week, but it's a chromoly frame made out of T45. Like they don't do 4130 in Britain. I had to Google it.
huh.
I
I
mean,
guess I guess 4130 is a gauge, right? 4130 means those are the alloying elements that are in it. In the
right.
same way, like you'd have Reynolds 531 is not a 4130 chromoly, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, well it's not a Reynolds, it's not 4130, it's T45 and I think it comes from British Motorsports. Um
Oh,
and so apparently that dude Neil Pengely that builds the bikes at Tora is a motorsports dude and he used to build race cars and he must just like yeah, T45. So I'm like, okay.
yeah,
Um
it's okay. There it is. It's a seamless tubing, but it's not a chromoly.
yeah, but it looks okay.
Manganese.
I'm not a
Yeah.
metallurgist, but I think it's okay.
Due to its ability to handle high G forces and ease of welding, it is superior to 4130 steel, offering 24% higher torsional rigidity. Does not require heat treatment. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So that'll be here next week, and then I'm building it up with all like retro parts. So race face Diabolis, and I have like these
Oh boy.
the old Ringley ABBA downhill hubs. I got vintage. I ended up with vintage Sun rims, but it's going to be 27.5. It's modern geometry built to look old. So it's
That's what you had mentioned before.
yeah.
So I'm going to assume that you're sitting on a pretty huge stash of parts and bikes anyway.
I mean, like my wife the other day said we need to build a rack just for wheels. You know?
Okay.
Like
Yeah. So you,
I have enough wheels to line my garage. But I mean, no, I had to order these rims because I didn't have the rim. I wanted vintage rims, but 27.5.
got it.
Like, how do you do that, right? Um,
Well, how vintage? Do you want like vintage rim brake rims?
Yeah, so I run the Vintage Downhill group and the Vintage Downhill
Mhm.
podcast and whatever, and the rules of this community are it has to be at least before 2010. Because
Okay.
downhill didn't even, as we know it today, didn't even really exist until 95, 94.
Right.
So going much earlier than that, like you're just talking hardtail stuff. So I wanted like old Sun rims or something like that. And it turns out Sun did do an OEM rim for the MTX, like really hard to come by, and I found
Yep.
some. So, but then I had
Yep.
like vintage, Ringley hubs and the race face Diabolis kit and it'll be built up with old parts on a new frame built to look old with new geometry.
Oh, that's going to be cool. That's going
Yeah.
to be sweet.
So
Nice.
looking forward to that. But yeah.
That's a strange one though, right? Because and oh god, I don't want to bum out the vintage downhills here, but we haven't talked about downhill stuff at all, so we probably should talk about gravity because this is the vintage downhill podcast after all.
Sure.
And once upon a time, I raced the kamikaze, so
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
but the you want it to look vintage but with modern geometry.
Yep.
I have an almost like it's not quite an allergic reaction. I don't break out in hives, but like late 90s downhill free ride through to about 2003. I'm sorry, any sacred cattle that get stabbed
Uh-huh.
here, I apologize in advance. Man, it's just like it was like the pimply adolescent phase.
Yeah.
Like before that, when you had these hardtails, the one time that I was gifted a pro number to race the kamikaze, I got to sit in a chair with Jimmy Deaton, and he was
Nice.
talking about how he wanted like really long top tubes and really short stems and kind of slack head angles, and everything would be okay.
Yeah.
This is years before Gary Fisher and his old Genesis geometry thing came about. And this is just what Jimmy thought would work good. Long wheelbases, slack head angles, long front centers. Anyway, those like the hardtails into the very first dual suspension bikes, even like that Boulder Gazelle. I mean, shit, Skinner's SE Descender was even kind of a good looking bike. Ugh. But then as you got into we'll call it the Kona Clump era, the beginning
Okay.
of the Kona Clump,
Yeah.
the bikes all got so tall so suddenly.
Yeah.
It just, all of it to me just looks, it almost looks like they must have been going slower than they were before when they were on hardtails. Because suddenly you have like these 8-inch travel bikes, but they still have like 68-degree head angles, and the
Yeah.
ride is perched way up on top of them. And nobody looked good
Yeah.
in that era. It was just rough.
I think there was some reasoning behind free ride bikes having semi-steep angles but a ton of travel. If you imagine like the bridges and shit that they were building in BC,
Yeah.
they were going slow and puck to flat,
Yes, it was
right?
all punk.
Yeah.
Lots
So
of that.
like Kona had the Stab Primo and the Stab Deluxe, which was like their downhill bike, which
Yeah.
was more slack, and they had a free ride version of it. The name escapes me, and it did have
It wasn't the
steeper
stinky.
angles.
It was the stinky. Stinky?
Maybe Stinky 9.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a regular Stinky mixed with a Stab. It had 9 inches of
Yes.
travel and probably a monster T, but steep angles.
Yeah.
And I think the thinking was they really were just doing hucks to flat. They didn't need the steep head tube angles. But I
And
mean,
they needed a ton of bottom bracket clearance as well.
yeah.
So their bottom brackets are like 14 inches or yeah.
That whole era, I mean, mountain bikes of every category have improved, but that whole era, I mean, it was like the Limp Bizkit era of mountain biking, you know? Um,
And it was culturally the Limp Biscuit era.
yeah.
I mean, that explains a lot.
So, I mean, a lot of those, with this dude, there's like 40,000 people in this group that I started up around the world that are just into old downhill bikes. But like people
Yeah.
don't really ride that shit, like they don't ride good, you
No.
know. So, but that's why I'm building a new one with modern geometry because like they look rad, And everybody is always saying like, what if they rebuilt that today with modern geometry? They always say that, whether it be like the Intense M1 or the
Right.
Carpiel or whatever. Like
It's like Scarab or whatever it's going to be. Yeah.
the rear
Yeah.
suspension on an Intense M1 is rad, but like it's just way too short.
Yep.
So that's why I'm building one because I'm 6'3". Like I can't really fit on old
Oh,
bikes. I can't fit on those old bikes
anyway.
anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll be an interesting experiment. I actually expect the bike is going to ride really well. So um, you started with Bike Magazine in 1994.
That's when they launched. Yeah.
So you've been in it. You've been in it for a little while. and
Yep.
and and seeing, I mean, I didn't really start mountain biking in earnest till like 1992, but I mean that was
I
the heyday.
I was working at a bike shop in San Francisco in 1989. That got me that sort of was where indentured servitude began. Um, we were a Bridgestone dealer. We became the first Yeti dealer in Northern California. And I bought a Yeti at bike shop wages, basically on shop credit. Like, well, we own this, but you ride it while you pay it off at your
Right.
$5 an hour mechanic rate at Velo City on Stanton Street.
Okay.
And a year later, I had one of the very first ever mountain cycle suspenders on it,
Hmm.
and I thought I was all about downhilling and was just going to crush it at Mammoth that year. I did not.
Um, real quick, let me back up. Were you born in California?
I was. I grew up in New Zealand, but I was born in Stanford Hospital. Yeah.
So that explains the accent. You grew up in New Zealand, but you were born here, then you came back.
Yeah, yeah. I was about 5, and my dad had decided that he was working for Philco, who were in one of ways they're a subsidiary of Ford, like your Ford radios were Philco's,
Got it.
but he was working somewhere over by Ames Research Center designing the chassis for black box flight recorders. He was an
Oh,
engineer, structural engineer. It was funny because I thought as a kid, like my dad worked for Philco. Then we moved to New Zealand and he worked for this TV company. And then he started making motorcycle helmets. And it wasn't until he was on his deathbed where I'm like, so when you started making helmets, why did you decide, you were an electronics engineer? And he goes, no, I wasn't. I was a mechanical engineer. He was insulted. Like, what? It's like, well, you never told me that. You just moved us to New Zealand and then it's motorcycle helmets. He goes, no, all I was ever doing, I was at Philco. It was a black box chassis for flight recorders. Before that, I was installing Loran towers in Fallon, Nevada. He's like, I've always been a structural engineer. I'm like, oh.
nice.
Anyway, he moved us down to New Zealand in 1970. Like, Vietnam was still going. Richard Nixon was Richard Nixon, and he just kind of wanted out. So he drew up a short list, and there's like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, England, South Africa. He wanted places that he didn't have to learn a new language that
So
had
have you lived in all those places?
no, this is the list he drew up.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sorry.
and then process of elimination. He wanted socialized medicine and socialized education.
Hmm.
And Canada was right next door. England was still basically in a rationing mindset following World War II. It took them a long time to get over that, understandably. South Africa, very obvious cultural problems. And he went and visited Australia, and he said it was a lot like America with training wheels.
Hmm.
So New Zealand it was, and we moved down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, so when you came back to California, you were working in Velo City, which is, I think, still going today.
No, I don't think it is.
No?
Holland Jones is the guy that founded that. He passed a few years ago.
Okay.
So I moved back to the States in 1984, and I had big visions that I was going to be a motocross racer, and that got beaten out of me in my first two Baylands Wednesday and Friday night motocrosses over in Fremont.
Uh-huh.
Um, and and I rapidly realized that I'm 19 years old and racing motorcycles takes money when you have to also pay rent, and this is all new and different to me.
Yep.
So I started working construction, and the guys I was working construction with were surfers, and they were getting into these. They were also, we're on the peninsula, like Palo Alto at this time. They're like, well, we can't ride our dirt bikes in all the places we used to ride our dirt bikes. We got these things called mountain bikes. You should give this a try.
Yeah.
So I got a teal Diamondback Apex in 1985 or six, and that was away we went.
Yeah.
Moved to San Francisco in 1988, 87 or 88, and dropped out of college and then went to work at Velo City in 89 ish.
How'd you get into Bike Magazine? Did you know people?
I was a college dropout. That's how. Um, I didn't know anyone. So I was a mechanic and was just steeped in learning how to be a good mechanic. And Velo City was solid. Like they were the anti-performance or the anti-start to finish. They stressed even your $300 Fuji Tahoe. You strip that down to the frame. You faced your bottom bracket if you had to. You tracked alignment on the frame. You repacked every single bearing. There was grease on every surface.
Hmm.
Hour and a half, 2 hour builds per
Wow.
bike.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a good education. You learned, and I was working there. I got into racing, started racing cross country in like 88 or 89, 88, Kirkwood, and then Tahoe Roubaix. Um, and then really kind of got bit by the bug. I sucked at racing, really sucked. I had no understanding of how to actually hurt, which basically racing is about pain. Um, and it took a few years to kind of rewire for that. But I don't know, by 91, I was working at this other bike shop, Seal Rock Cycles, and they were out in the avenues, like 28th and Geary.
Hmm.
So it was foggy all the time. And at that time, San Francisco was not in a tech boom, and there were a lot of poor people out there. And so people weren't really buying bikes
Hmm.
in the fog. And it was August, so it's super foggy. And Earl, the owner, came in. He's like, "Oh, Mike, you're the last one on, so I got to lay you off. I can't afford to make payroll anymore." It's like, shit. And a friend of mine was working at a magazine called California Bicyclist. It was that free paper that would get delivered and you'd
Yep.
give them out to all the customers. I'm sure you got them at Performance.
Yep.
And he's like, "Well, our receptionist is in her third trimester and she can't come in mornings. So you want to come in and answer the phones for us? We'll pay about what you pay making it at the shop." And I'm like, "Sure." So because of Henry Kingman, I ended up answering phones at this magazine when guys like Maynard Hershen and Joe Glyden would fax their stories in and then follow up with a phone call.
Hmm.
And did you get the fax? "I got the fax. You spelled some shit wrong, Maynard." And um, at one point, while I was talking with either Maynard or Joe about writing, the publisher walks past and he's like, "Do you know how to read?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Do you know how to write?" And I'm like, "Is this a trap?" Because I'd been an English major. I came back to the States to go to school, to study English, to become a journalist.
Hmm.
And then I dropped out of college because I was a couple years, by this time, a year and a half older than just about everyone else. I'd bounced all the way through the JC circuit on the peninsula. I'd done my time at Foothill and College of San Mateo, the gateway to achievement, Kenyatta, and it finally got enough transfer that I could get into San Francisco State, and I just ran out of steam. And it's like, what am I going to do with an English degree? Like, I can stay in academia and develop a speech impediment and get a tweed jacket with elbow patches and start smoking the pipe and talk about the great American novel to a bunch of disinterested students,
Hmm.
or I can just cut to the chase and say, "You want fries with that?" Because that's basically what an English degree gets you. An English degree is not really, job applicable. So I dropped out and decided to focus on bicycles. I was fascinated with everything to do with mountain bikes. So I was riding bikes all the time, wrenching on bikes, racing bikes, and it was just everything.
Yeah.
And then answering phones at a bicycle magazine, like, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah.
And then that led to writing some things for them at a whopping 10 cents a word. And from there, I'm not sure how, but I got approached by the editor of Winning magazine to write some stuff for them. So by the time I moved to Santa Cruz in 1992, I built up a decent enough resume of writing that I went down there to apply for a job as the editor of Mountain Bike magazine because they were going to relaunch it.
Hmm.
And bicycling was they had an office in SoCal. And thankfully, and in an illuminated moment of just editorial presence on their part, they realized that I was young, dumb, had a chip on my shoulder, and didn't really know what I was doing. So they didn't hire me, and they hired Dan Capel and Zapata Espinosa instead, which was
Hmm.
a far, far more intelligent bet. Um, and I went back to working at the bicycle trip as a mechanic there. And we were at this trade show called Bio, which was a competing trade show to Interbike that
Hmm.
existed for 2 years. And it was the bicycle industry organization that was basically Trek, maybe Specialized, Cannondale, and like a few of the giants of industry deciding, fuck you, Interbike, we're going to have our own trade show
Hmm.
and screw the little people. It was definitely a corporate move. And I was there because I was trying to find the publisher of Winning, this little Belgian dude named Jean-Claude Garreau, because he owed me for like a year of stories.
Hmm.
And I was kind of sick of not getting paid and just feeling my oats. But the whole time I'm walking around the show and I keep hearing rumors of like there's these guys and they're starting a new magazine and they're asking about you. I'm like, oh, I gotta find them. And
Hmm.
I didn't. And then by the time I got home, it was Vegas. We did a lot of acid. I thought maybe the whole thing had just been a hallucination on my part. And I get a phone call sometime later, and it's Rob Story, who was the managing editor of what was going to become Bike Magazine. He's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, I read some of your California bicyclist stuff, and I was wondering if you want to write a spec piece about road trips for our first issue. We're going to do this magazine. It's going to be called Bike." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I whip off a spec piece, send it down to him. He's like, "That's awesome. Can I use that as a feature in the first issue?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's got another thing. Kind of want to have a column at the front of the book. And I think something that's kind of anchored in just the day-to-day reality, the gritty aspect of like riding or working on bikes or a bike shop mechanic's perspective. And I was like, I could probably do that. I'm a bike shop
Hmm.
mechanic. He's like, yeah, we'll have it at the front of the book. And I'm like, yeah, it'll sort of be like a handshake. And he's like, yeah, a handshake, like a grimy handshake. And we both just sit there for a minute and then we just kind of laugh, like the heads back, moment. And yeah, off it went.
That's how it came to be.
Yeah,
And
total accident.
Bike Magazine was like an offshoot or started by or whatever by Surfer Magazine.
It was part of Surfer Publications, which was at that time Surfer, Powder, Snowboarder, and Bike.
Yeah.
They dabbled with a thing called Inside Golf for a little while. There had previously been a thing called Skateboarder.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was a tiny little company. I think the holding of it was called For Better Living Communications, but I think it was actually bankrolled by a guy who was kind of like a concrete magnate down in Southern California.
Huh.
And and at the time when all the publishing houses were getting huge, this was a pretty small, tightly held unit. And it was lean and efficient and profitable and in each case really dedicated to their individual sports.
Yeah.
And I don't
Total
know.
different vibe though. I mean, so many mountain bike magazines, probably all bike magazines back in the day were like primarily like product reviews. Hardly I was because I have a stack of old magazines and I was looking through like not Mountain Bike Action, probably like Mountain Bike or one of those. And there wasn't a single picture of a guy riding a bike. It was like literally all product reviews. Whereas Bike Magazine was like all these, beautiful images of just a dude on a bike in a forest or
They,
something like
they, they took a lot of identity out of both surf and ski cultures. And the staff was basically the same staff as Powder Magazine with a couple of extra people
that. Yeah.
who knew about bikes. So they had um, they had this beautiful freedom to come in and just like we're just going to do what we feel like,
Yeah.
and we really want it to be visually powerful. And they nailed that.
Was there a little bit of we're gonna stick our thumb in the eye of those other guys kind of aspect to it?
Well, like I'm going through so many of these issues now because I've got this Substack going of all
Yeah.
these old columns, and there's one they just did where they it was a we would do these spoofs, these multi-page pictorial spoofs. There was one about like how to ride over a log, and it shows the guy with a plank on the back in his backpack, and he drops it down. You'd look better if you had a haircut like your mother, and builds a ramp over it and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Some of them were beautiful, really funny. Some of them were kind of forced. There was this one we did called Mountain Dude, and it's this guy in downhill gear, and they have him kind of like at the getting swung at the driving range while he's running across the driving range.
Yeah.
Got to cross training in to stay fit for the X Games. And one of the pictures, he's on the shitter, and he's got to consume some good stuff, and it's a copy of Plush.
Oh.
And he's like, toilet paper's plush, or is that vice versa? And I'm just like, man, that was a shitty thing to say. That was super fucking shitty. I didn't do that. I wasn't the one who wrote that, but I definitely said my share of shitty things at
I
that
mean,
time.
the beer foam suspension shootout,
That was mine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And
Um,
there was a whole like multi years long article all about the shit bike.
the shit bike is much later, but yeah, the shit bike has its own career. I think a documentary film needs to be made about it. And
Right.
I know where it is.
Oh, really?
It's in a storage unit just around the corner from me. Yes.
It hasn't broken?
Oh, it's broken many times,
Okay.
many times. Um, we were not actively trying to poke the rest of the cycling industry, but we saw that there needed to be a different kind of conversation that spoke more to the culture than to the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Did we do it right? Fuck, do you ever do it right? We could have been more graceful. This comes about writing with anything. You can always have written it better. You can always have done. It's rare that you can just sling it out of the park. Um, so I look back at those first few years of bike, and it's kind of funny because it's revered, especially amongst the progressive free ride and modern riding culture, as this was the magazine that understood it. But we kind of didn't really either. I mean, there's pictures of bar ends all the way up through the late 90s, and there's lots of riders aloft just riding across like these big empty landscapes looking very awkward on bikes. Um, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
I feel like we were in the right place at the right time as far as the Canadian explosion and free riding. I feel like we still could have done a much better job of really nurturing the competitive aspects of cycling. Like I got to write some good articles about downhilling, but it there was an ethos within the magazine that it was about the culture of the sport, and competition wasn't cultural enough, or wasn't cool, or was there was something about competition that they just weren't that down with. And I was always writing about racing, so they
Yeah.
gave me the grace to do that, but that wasn't their jam.
Yeah. I mean, you
It was
definitely carved out a niche, you know. Mountain bike action was definitely more kind of aggro, you know. I mean,
Well, mountain bike action was all about product, right? All about
yeah,
product and the wrecking crew. Mountain bike, like that, to Zap's credit, like he really paid attention to racing and the evolution of racing, both cross country and downhill, as it was happening. And they
yep,
steered that magazine pretty well in that way. And they still did a lot of product testing. Like we were
yep,
terrible at product testing. We hardly did any at all. And every year we send out the reader surveys, and the reader surveys would come back. As much as people love Bike Magazine, every year they come back, more product. We want more product.
yeah.
So even if
I
we
don't
can
know.
make
I
some,
mean, I feel like the juxtaposition of mountain bike action and bike magazine is perfect. I mean, you've got
oh yeah,
lifestyle, and then you've got sort of like product and race focus on the other, hand. And I really appreciate them both to the point that, I've been in mountain biking since forever, and I can't really remember the names of any other magazine. There was Bike Magazine and Mountain Bike Action and everybody else, and I don't really remember who they were.
come on, man.
I
Fat
mean,
Tire Flyer.
Dirt Rag
What
was
about
never
mountain bike for the adventure?
Dirt Rag wasn't my thing, and then whatever, Richard Cunningham was involved in something, but I couldn't tell you what.
Richard was the editor of Mountain Bike Action.
Was he?
Yes.
I thought he was in another magazine for a while.
No, for a number of years after Zap had left. So Zap went from MBA to Mountain Bike, which is a Rodale publication. Mountain Bike existed for a number of years before getting folded back into bicycling. And somewhere in that, Zap went and worked at Trek for a while.
Yep.
And when Zap went to Mountain Bike, pretty soon after that, Richard came in as editor of Mountain Bike Action. He was editor of MBA for a long time.
Yeah.
I remember calling him up one day. I was editor of Bike at this time, so this would have been about 2004. And the latest issue of Mountain Bike Action had shown up. I'm down in San Juan Capistrano, where Bike was, we're in production. So I basically would go down and sleep in the office for a couple of weeks and just get the magazine out the door. And it's late at night. Here's mountain bike actions here. I leaf through it. And in the very back, there was an article about this guy, Bob Ward, who had put on the original Rock Hopper races.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about what a great guy he was and what he'd started and how all this race thing had happened. And the very last sentence is like, we're sad to inform, this is something of an obituary that Bob Ward has passed on. Our condolences to the passage of a great man. And I'm not reading this thing. Like, Bob had died 8 years beforehand. I wrote like a eulogy for him in, I think, California Bicyclist. I'm just like, pick up the phone. I call Richard. Hey, Richard. He answers, which is, this is editors do, is you sit around your office late at night staring at prints. Richard, that piece about Bob Ward. Oh, yeah, man. Sounds like he was a really great guy. I'm like, he was. He died 8 years ago. And this is so perfectly Richard. And Richard's like, huh. Well, he's still dead, right?
So it's still accurate.
Yeah.
Do I need to edit anything?
Exactly. Okay, the story stands. We don't have to print a retraction.
I don't know how I missed this. So, like Zap going to Trek, you went to Santa Cruz Bicycles, and I don't know how that totally escaped me. You were at Santa Cruz for like 5 or 6 years.
Man, they did a good job of burning that one to the ground after the fact, huh? Yeah, I was director of marketing of Santa Cruz for 6 years.
I mean, while Nathan Rennie and I believe
Oh,
Steve
yeah.
Pete were
Mhm.
on Syndicate, were you going to the races and stuff?
No, I didn't get to do that. I was the director of marketing.
Okay.
I had to make sure that Forrest Arakawa didn't take. Oh, never mind.
Um, Forrest at Santa Cruz?
Forrest was our photographer,
He was
so I
okay.
had to. Here's
Go ahead.
working at Santa Cruz is like being strapped into a rocket car with no steering wheel.
Uh-huh.
At that time, it was insane, and I was a magazine editor and writer. I had no experience in marketing, and I built the marketing department from the ground up with not really much budget because most of the marketing budget was being fed to the syndicate
Hmm.
because the syndicate were Santa Cruz's marketing by and
Hmm.
large. That was it. So yeah, I was there during the end of the Kurt Lindsay Voorhees era, the Steve Pete through Nathan Rennie, through Greg Menard, through Josh Bryceland
Wow.
time. And I got punted in 2012. And it was an intensely educational time.
Hmm.
I did not get to go to any races. I got to go to a lot of photo shoots, and that was being able to sit like inside the apex of a turn or right next to the lip of the jump and watch as someone like Nathan Rennie just sends it time, does like 20 different runs on something. That is an education in itself. And I got to say, that big man, for as big as he is and all of the just abuse you must think that he puts into a bike, God, he was graceful. I love
Really?
watching him. He possibly my favorite racer to watch ride. I mean, he's so, he shouldn't be as smooth as he is because he's so big. You think that he would just like destroy things, but there were times you could barely feel him going past. He had such a good touch on a bike.
Mm.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Uh, powerhouse of a dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think didn't they tried to strap him up? The Australian Institute of Sport that he put out something like 1,855 watts. He just
I
on
think
flat pedals.
it was more. It was like
Was
22
more.
or 22 or 25. And they
Jesus.
had to like hold the machine down because it was like rocking.
Yeah, he was something.
But yeah, they couldn't rein him in. They couldn't train him, so they let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Um,
I was at Santa Cruz during the time that I arrived there with, and the first thing I did was launch the Blur LT2, or no, the Blur LT, which was the first of the VPP2. So the VPP suspension went from the thing that creaked
Uh-huh.
and made everyone hate it about a month into ownership
Yep.
to super awesome angular contact bearings, captured collets, just really nice pivot hardware, like changed the game in terms of how people designed suspension pivots. And then through the
Was
carbon
Joe
implementation,
Graney was Joe Graney like lead technical dude at that point?
Joe was head of engineering at that point, yes.
Yep. Because
And
he was writing technical articles pretty regularly, almost like a blog, I believe.
I, Joe and I probably would not be exchanging Christmas gifts ever. But I had a decent enough working relationship with him that we were able to. My mandate there was we're going to speak our truths.
Hmm.
We had, as a company, we had a reputation for being a little bit scrappy. So it was like, let us continue to be scrappy. Let us be the people you invite to the party, and you're not sure if they're carrying fireworks, and this could get out of hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Cops might be called.
but let's own our shit. Let's know our shit. Let's own our shit, and let's explain our shit. And Joe was really good at that, like being able to put into words principles that I could then use as marketing.
Yep.
And he gave me enough, he trusted me enough with the marketing messaging that we had no budget. We ran circles around the whole bike industry for a while there. It was great.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, so the 104 Bronson blog was mine, and Joe would regularly have a thing in there.
Um, the APP, the actual pivot point. Who who named that?
I think that actually came from the engineering room. So it was either Joe or Nick
Okay.
Anderson. Man, how would I ever have like, so go see if you can find the APP launch videos. There was a launch video.
I saw a video of you talking about one of the APPs, and
Okay, but no,
it does sound, the whole thing sounds tongue in cheek.
the launch video has no actual words. It is music. And
Oh,
it is the only mountain bike video ever set to Charles Mingus. Charles
oh,
Mingus Haitian fight song. It was shot by Sean Spomer, Vital now. Um,
no way. I do have to
and
find this.
I had to market those. I had to bring those two bikes to market. I think my entire budget, including inviting the media out and introducing them and shooting the video, was something like 12 grand
Yeah.
total. It was at pennies, and those bikes were such shit piles. I mean, sorry
Really?
if there's any owners listening. It was. I feel like that entire thing was an ego flex by the engineering department, where they wanted to prove an engineering point. That is, we had for the longest time talked about how the axle path of VPP was important, and how having those counter rotating links and that rear suspension, or that solid rear triangle, was critical to how you managed your suspension kinematics.
Hmm.
And I think the engineers had a hold my beer bet amongst themselves, like, I bet we can get a single pivot to almost match VPP.
Yeah.
And like it was not able to get the same, well, anti-squat. Yeah, because you didn't have any instant center migration. It was still essentially a single pivot, but it was a linkage modified single pivot.
Hmm.
So you were stuck with your axle path kinematics and the fact that you didn't have a migrating. You couldn't really tune where your squat was going to be,
Hmm.
which you can when you've got instant center migration. Otherwise, it was a great idea in terms of how the suspension worked for a single pivot, but they were heavy and they were flexy,
Hmm.
and they were not that rad, and we didn't sell very many of them. And they stuck. Here you've got single pivot bikes. Now you've got VPP bikes and carbon fiber VPP bikes, and let's stick this thing in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure I got blamed for the failure of that, though, because that is
No.
part of marketing. Going back to what we are talking about, my buddy earlier, um, is it victory has many parents, failure is born an orphan. Um, when it comes to the marketing of things in the bike industry, marketing is rarely ever seen as the reason something succeeds, or
Hmm.
is, it's because the engineering was amazing, or the price point kicked ass, or the sales team really nailed it. if it fails, the marketing sucks. You got the marketing all wrong, man.
Yep.
So,
Did you work with Rob Roscott much?
no.
No.
Other than to have him kind of, yeah, no.
Okay.
He hired me.
Yeah.
But I think he also is why I got fired. I don't think we talked much in the last year I was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It was like, I can look at it now. It was a very educational time in my life, and it also revealed to me that I'm not cut out to be a marketing guy. Like they brought in Will Ockleton to replace me, and Will is a marketing guy. Like, he is charismatic, he's bright, he can light up a room, confident, and I'm plagued with self doubt. If I'm told that I have to manage a budget, then I manage the budget. I I can spin the story, but I don't like being the pitch man.
So
And
I'm gonna disagree with you. Um, and maybe just because I like you, but I've been in sales for a really long time. I was in sales for WTB for a while, and
no,
learned the wrong way to be a sales guy. But then since then, I've been doing high-end sales for companies like Microsoft. Um, and I found that just being a real person is actually way more beneficial than just regurgitating facts and figures. And I went back and watched a lot of your videos, like the launch of the APP, I believe the highball carbon frame, but like
yeah,
your ability to, because I'm a pretty technical guy and I do understand like how carbon fiber is made and stuff. But in the video launch of the highball carbon frame, you're able to articulate, this technology in layman's terms and make it entertaining. And I think you do a really good job at that. Whereas a lot of people misunderstand sales and marketing in a lot of different ways, from an ethics and honest standpoint, but also just from an ability to relate and communicate standpoint. And so I'm going to push back. I really appreciated
right.
watching your highball video. I'm like, this guy can break down carbon technology and make it entertaining and funny. So I thought
Well,
I thought you did a really good job.
it helps having a dad who made motorcycle helmets, so I kind of knew
Yeah.
a bit about laminates. But no, it's I'm probably a little hard marketing in that way. I feel like we did a lot of amazing stuff with a very limited budget at the time that I was at Santa Cruz. If I have sour grapes, it's because I never really got to put my finger on the trigger of the money gun
Yeah.
and make those big, fantastic Steve Pete videos or things like that. Um, that said, we what we were doing for marketing at the time that I was there was very intentional. Like,
Hmm.
we knew the value in speaking straight, and it didn't matter if we're rough around the edges. We'll consider that part of our scrappy charm,
Yep.
but we are going to demystify what we're doing, and we're going to, if you can always speak to the benefits, and if you have tangible benefits, you're speaking to power at that point. And that part was easy. Speaking in front of a camera, you should, if you liked those videos, go find one of the mission workshop talk to ask a founder events where I'm just standing stiffly staring at a camera for about 8 minutes while they're waiting for the feed to come up and say go, in front of a full live audience. It was
Oh,
one of the
really?
most mortifying moments of my life. The camera, I learned that from Ben Capron, who's at
Oh, really?
Specialized.
Really?
So Ben and I were working at bike shops at the bicycle trip in Santa Cruz together.
Yeah.
And when I was at the bio show trying to find these guys from Bike Magazine, he was going to have an interview to get hired as a road guy at Specialized, like basically road sales, or not road sales, on the road doing sales
Was
outside of
he
that.
still doing Marinovative at that point?
Marinovative was probably getting pretty quiet at that point. Like,
Yeah.
the last product he'd done had been the Cheap Trick, because they're cheap and they're trick. Get it?
Was that his break or something else?
That was the last of his breaks.
Yeah.
And it was like a $60 retail price point made out of like U-shaped aluminum that was actually bought from a hardware store as like window track,
No way. Wow.
because they're cheap and they're trick.
Yeah.
That man is a marketing genius. So he went to work for Specialized, and some of the things that he did early on, we're talking like mid 90s, where I'd be trotting around Interbike and I'd see Ben, and they'd say, "Hey Ben, we got some people here who want to find out about this," and they have a camera, and maybe it was Francis, the beginning of MTBR, and Ben would just click on it. He would like look at the camera. He's
No
like,
way.
okay, you come here. I'm going to show you something. Ben's
Right.
a smart dude and he knows what he's talking about and he's charismatic. But he would his whole thing was like, the camera is a person. The camera is your mother, whoever you need it to be.
Yep.
And you take that and you don't flinch at it. And I watched enough product presentations, especially at like Dirt Demo, Interbike would be great because you're working and you're trying to do stuff and you have media coming through all the time. And you would see some of these, it's some guy who's a sales rep for a company and he's suddenly in front of a camera and he doesn't even know. You're like, oh, and that's a knuckle box. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. You have to know your shit.
Yep.
And then you have to make the camera work for you.
Yep.
And you pull it in. And that was all that came from just like watching Ben go to work once or twice, like a decade prior to that.
I kind of purposefully have not gone through your history in a chronological fashion. I don't really do like scripted stuff.
That works well.
And I'm sure you've done podcasts before and talked over stuff, but does anything come to mind that you find particularly amusing? Did you ever get yourself into trouble?
Every time I open my mouth, whether it's like I have worked a lot for Specialized over the years,
Really?
but I've also run afoul of them in print and on screen enough times. Just like, so that's sort of an obvious one there. I think I'm probably banned from ever visiting the mountain bike capital of the world. What is it? Bentonville, because I've teed off on them so many times for having the audacity to call themselves the mountain bike capital of the world.
I didn't know they did.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a marketing move last year, I think.
Wow.
I
wonder if Marin has anything to say about that, or Moab,
or just about anywhere in the mountains.
Yeah.
I a number of years, about a decade ago, I wrote a thing for Patagonia about wilderness.
Yes.
And I think I probably alienated easily half of the readership that prior to that probably thought I was their best friend.
So in doing my homework here, and I want you to kind of explain to people what you're talking about, but in doing my homework here, the first thought that came to mind was, wait a minute, you started the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, which I think you're converting a lot of wilderness land into mountain biking land, but then you're saying,
No.
but this was my thought, so feel free to correct me. To me, it was like a little bit of a juxtaposition where we're building trails in wilderness, but we need to respect the wilderness. So talk about that article.
Okay. Well, yes. First, we need to clarify what wilderness is.
Yep.
Wilderness as a designated wilderness area. No, I was not building trails in wildernesses. I have poached a lot of trails in wilderness over the years. Like let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I have ridden some amazing single track in wilderness areas. I have broken the law. I've also carried my bike through just brutal trackless shit fights in wilderness areas because riding in wilderness is not always that fun.
Yeah.
It's a wilderness.
The trails will disappear.
Yeah, because that's the thing about wilderness is it's wild. So the stewardship, which I was part of the founding, I wasn't the founder.
Sure.
We had a huge area of legal multi-use access to and a mandate to maintain that access and improve the quality of experience for everyone. So that meant hikers, equestrians, mountain bikers, motorcyclists. We didn't want to lose anything. If there were opportunities for us to build, let's do it. But what we started out as was the idea of stewardship, of let's take care of what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Then if we can grow it, great. But if we grow it, we have to kind of consider all of the variables and all of the impacts. So wilderness as a designated thing, I'm kind of part Lorax in that I have done poachy things in the past. God, I think I've even ridden dirt bikes on BCT once upon a time. But maybe I'll blame that on growing up in New Zealand. I feel like we are increasingly, especially with current administration, we're sort of loving the outdoors to death. And
Mm.
I've been feeling this for a while. Like you were, we'll get back to Mike Vanderman in a minute, but I'll use him as a poll, right?
Uh-huh.
So there's the Mike Vanderman poll, and then there's the dirt bike in the wilderness is what I deserve poll,
Uh-huh.
whoever that is.
Sure.
And once upon a time, I was kind of like that.
Hmm.
If I can get away with it, cool. But I realized like you can't really do that. Like if we just let people do what people want to do everywhere, by and large, people fuck things up. Then they'll come back afterwards and try to make good, but we can do a lot of damage. And outdoor recreation is an impact, no matter how you slice it. Is it a bad impact? Is it a big impact? I don't want to get into the morality of that kind of thing. But when it came to wilderness, I realized like wilderness is this sort of inviolate thing. And at the time when there was that bill that Ted Stroll had introduced to try to
Yes.
redesignate wilderness, right? So
Um,
wilderness had initially in 1964, it was no motorized transport. But then in 1988 or so, they amended it to say no mechanized transport, which is when bicycles got axed. So this was a push to get bicycles reintroduced or re-legalized to travel through wilderness areas. And it was reasonable in a lot of ways. It was, I think, a case by case proposal.
it didn't change the definition of anything, and it didn't change the access of anything. What Ted Stroll argued and supported was giving local land managers authority to categorize local
Yes,
trails,
yes,
which I believe is smart, local control
yes.
on a case by case basis. But it didn't actually do anything on a broad scale.
Right, because trying to change it at the federal level, yeah. What stuck in my throat at the time was that the people that they brought it to bring it to Congress,
Tom McClintock was
yes,
like was the main dude, the
uh-huh,
Republican. It was the
yeah.
only supporter.
And then when they reintroduced, at a reintroduced point later on, it was Mike Lee, who,
Yeah.
come on, man. So I can't get behind the enemy of my enemy is my friend on that at all.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, this is just kind of the Pandora's box that's going to get opened up, and I don't see it being good. And man, we have it so good right now anyway. Okay, there's wilderness, and then there are the millions of acres of access that mountain bikes have now that they didn't have 20 years ago. Look at the trails that are built everywhere. Just about everywhere you go in this country, there's places to ride now. It's great.
Hmm.
And so I wrote this thing in Patagonia's The Perfect Line about I say this as a former poacher. We don't need access to the wilderness.
Hmm.
And yeah, there's some guy in MTBR referred to me as the Benedict Arnold of mountain biking. Turncoat.
Wow. You should make
Yeah.
decals. You should make decals.
But in that, as I age, I lose extremity of thinking. Like
Yeah.
I used to have like really strong convictions about a lot of things, and some of them were dead wrong. I'm much less attached to a lot of what I think now. And I'm much more able to be empathic or understanding about where other people get to their thinking from. Like, it's really easy to vilify Mike Vanderman because the guy's a nut job.
He did stab a mountain biker with
He
with a
tried to stab a
knife.
guy, yeah. Oh, he just slashed at him. Um, but I can sort of see where I can see his origin story, right? Like
Yeah.
before the Joker became the Joker, he was just a dude, but then some bad things happened, and then he turned into the Joker. So at some point, Mike Vanderman probably was like, bicycles as a transport, they kind of work, but oh, now they're going to spread. And in his mind, they just explode across the landscape until they block out the sun. And that may not be reasonable, but I can sort of understand where he's coming from because I feel kind of that way about wilderness. I'm like, you know what? Not only do I not want bikes to be in wilderness, I think people shouldn't be
Yeah.
there either. So yeah,
I haven't so that one going back to my question, that one got you into trouble.
I wouldn't say trouble. It definitely bummed out some readership who thought that we were aligned. Um,
Yeah.
but you know,
I haven't talked to Ted Stroll in a long time. I was a supporter. I was trying to help him. But I honestly don't know of any particular like use cases that he had in mind. But I will say, like, for example, the Pacific Crest Trail connecting um Packer Saddle
just
to
about anywhere.
Lavazola Creek Trail. That section of the PCT is illegal, but there's supposed to be a trail called Oakland Pond, which was the original PCT.
I think
And
they've. I think that's happened.
well, I'm going back a little ways, but
Okay.
the legal route you couldn't find. It disappeared. And so
Yeah.
we tried to do the legal route, you can't find it. I mean, so we have to do the PCT or get lost in wilderness.
I,
You
I
know?
I believe they did a realignment along there of the PCT
Yeah, it's been a
to
while,
make
but
to make it so that the what you know is that what used to be that mega poach
yeah.
is now a legal mountain bike trail.
That's a great section of trail. But
And
back in the day when we tried to ride it legally, like you're either going to get lost in the forest or you're going to poach. Those were your choices.
yeah, or you're going to be on that brutal Jeep road going up over Snake Lake.
Yeah.
It That's a perfect example of it. Like that section there, we would joke about. I mean, what level of filtering do you want me to engage in here?
I can always edit. I mean, you can
Okay,
say whatever you want and I can edit it out.
so there's an irony. The initials for PCT also work very well with Perfect Cycling Trail.
Yeah, it's
I've ridden
beautiful.
sections of it down by Big Bear that are just amazing. Up by just south of Yosemite, oh,
Yeah.
Donner to Wild Plum, one of the best 50-mile rides you can take anywhere.
Yeah.
So good. Except for when you go up there the week after the horses had their jamboree up by Fordyce Lake and just obliterated PCT with 300 horse hoof prints.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. There's such good sections of the PCT. I pretty just about anywhere on the map you could throw a dart onto the PCT from Canada to Mexico, and it would probably be epic. There's a few places that suck, but not many. It's
Yeah.
really, really built for riding. It's a great trail.
Yeah. I agree. And that section that's now legal, I haven't been there in years. I mean, just riding there in the spring through the mule's ear and the decomposed
Oh,
granite, like, dude,
yep.
and really all
Yeah.
you need, all you you could really rip on a freaking highball with a 4-inch fork and some fat tires. You don't even hardly need suspension. So no.
Yeah. I mean, the grade and the construction of that trail is kind of amazing that it does just hide along that mountainside and it
Yeah.
rolls so beautifully in both directions. And
Yeah.
yeah, well built
You ever
stuff.
thinking of, trail building and construction and whatnot, did you ever ride New Paradigm on Mount Tam?
Yes.
I mean, we're already talking, but I mean that one's 40 years old, and I mean
Yeah.
that was Charlie Cunningham basically saying, "Hey, land managers, it is possible. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you let us, we can build it, and it's sustainable, and we're not going to hurt anything. And in fact, like ducking it under tree limbs slows people down and makes it fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
No,
anyway,
that was beautifully thought out and really nicely executed.
yeah. So. What are you up to today? You're writing for North Shore Mountain Bike. Is that what NSMB?
MSNB.com.
That's what that is?
I'm a little late getting a three-way comparison of Ergon GDH handlebar grips
Okay.
to them because I'm trying out each size to decide whether, do you know what size grips you ride?
I have
I
no
always thought
idea.
that I used to think that I liked smaller grips.
Yeah.
That's because once upon a time I rode the big Uris.
Yeah.
And now, so at Sea Otter, Ergon came out like, okay, we're doing the GDH in 3 diameters now. So there's a skinny, regular, valley, whole size, and a fat. And I just said, send me all 3. I want to know which of these I actually prefer to ride. So I've been shuffling through grips, like mid-ride, swapping grips out and
Really?
seeing how they go. So I kind of have to put that thing together. Then I got to go back to working on that black cat out there.
Okay, so you've taken delivery of the Black Cat.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's coming together.
Yeah.
It's taken a while to corral all the parts, but I think I've got just about everything now.
I want to see that thing. Did you do the design on the paint job, or did you let Todd just do it, whatever?
I handed that to Todd and I said, he'd asked me what I wanted for fancy paint. I was like, have you ever seen the Soviet poster work of Alexander Rodchenko? He's like, no. So I sent him some of these constructivist, unite workers posters,
Yeah.
and he's like, that works great for posters. It's going to look like ass on a bike frame. Um, but I did a because it's Todd. So I did a dive into Radchenko's stuff though, and he had done some other artwork earlier. So
Wow.
he did something that's a little bit of a tribute to that, but it also looks a lot like one of the other black cats that he recently painted. So
Yeah.
it's
Right
it's
on.
gorgeous.
Looking forward to seeing it.
Oh, I'll send you some pictures.
Yeah. My bike is just white with red decals. The new downhill
That's
bike.
that has been my mode forever.
Yeah.
I'm finishing up testing an Ibis Ripley SL right now, and that is the color of bike that I usually get.
Yeah.
Raw carbon with a little head badge and not
Yeah.
much else. Like when I was at Santa Cruz, we would build they had the color picker going on their website for a long time, or they still probably do. But in the early days of that, we would get raw bikes, either raw aluminum or raw carbon, and we would photo them, and then we would overlay through Photoshop the colors. So
Got it.
that was how we would make the color picker work. And then you could also swap the components and do all of that stuff. It was a pain in the ass to photograph all of it, given the technology of the time. It's become quite a bit easier now. And so I would always reserve one of the raw bikes. I want the bike that's black with no decals. Every
Yeah.
time we were launching a new bike, like, okay, what colors do we want the new bike to be? And I'd be sitting there in the corner going, make one black. We want the black one with
Yeah.
black decals.
Nice. Um, Mike, that's really all I have for you. I don't want
Okay.
to belabor you with telling the stories you've told of your history, but you've been doing it for a long time.
It has been a while.
I always find your stuff entertaining. So
Oh, thanks.
appreciate
Thanks.
you and what you do and what you've done. I look forward to seeing your new black cat. You got to post pictures for me.
I will do so. And yeah, sorry we didn't talk much about downhill. I figured that we were going to talk about my just epic run at the 1989 Kamikaze, but no.
We still can.
Let's just say that a Panaracer head wall is not a good tire down there.
Yeah, well, you were running expert category in that?
I was. Well, I was given a race number by Paul Chetwynd, who rode for Rocky Mountain, I think, at that time. So I
Uh-huh.
raced all weekend as an expert, but I really wanted to do the Kamikaze. And that was at a time when I was pretty damn feral. And Paul didn't want to race the Kamikaze. He was either off to Europe for some Grundig stuff or was heading back to Canada. He's like, here, take my number. You can just do the Kamikaze as me.
Oh,
Like, what if I stink the joint up? And he's like, I'm pretty slow. All right. So that leads to getting to share the gondola with Jimmy Deaton and Joey Deloe, who has bounced in and out of my life in various ways. His father was the guy that invented. I think his father was the guy that came up with the formula for metal matrix.
really?
Yeah. Joey's a trippy guy. He's run this outfit called Outer Circle Racing in Southern California forever. And
Okay.
I would always run into him somewhere at the races. So I'm sitting in this chair, I get up to the top, and I've got my Yeti with my mountain cycle suspender fork and my Panaracer head wall. And I had the run of my life all the way up until just about the bottom of the Kamikaze. That was when there was still a climb at the very end of the Kamikaze. Before you got
Uh-huh.
to that climb, you've come out of the forest gate, down past the speed trap, and there's this left that then drops you down to the right where the climb is. And there's a huge embankment above that left. And there's a little culvert that runs through the fire road in that spot.
Hmm.
And it was kind of compressed on the left side. So there's a little compression. And I'm in a full speed touch. My pen racer head wall gripping for all it's worth. And I hit that little compression, and the front just kind of just pushed all the way. I was trying to make a turn, and instead I just like slid the front all the way off of the fire road up into the embankment. I still can see clear as day. People just like, oh God, back down onto the trail again, and then up the horrible climb through the finish. I think I did a 5:52 or something. That was the year Philippe Paracas won, and he did it in 5:04. And I
Okay.
realized, man, I'm so far off the pace. I suck at this.
Right on. Well, with
Yeah,
that, Mike, thank you.
there we go.
It's been a pleasure. I think that's the perfect button to put on the Vintage Downhill podcast with the grimy handshake.
Call it good.
Yeah, dude. All
Well,
right.
thanks for having me on, Chuck.
Thanks for joining, dude. I really appreciate you and appreciate your taking time.
Well, thank you very much.
You're always welcome.
All right, then.